Hello, my Richies, and welcome back to another episode of the Make Life Rich Movement podcast. My name is Sara. I'm your host, and in today's episode, we are discussing how to elevate the conversations you have with others. I myself have been actively trying to do this, which led me to doing a little bit of research like I do and figuring out how I could make this easier for myself. Over the last 10 years, there's been a certain shift within my behaviors, absolutely, on a growth journey, a spiritual journey, and now a faith journey. There are always going to be moments where you're finding yourself wanting to raise your standards for your own personal behavior, your own personal output. I think there came a moment for me over the last few years where I couldn't, 10 years ago, I would engage in gossip with someone and just let them vent and kind of like, oh, yeah, yeah. And then it kind of elevated a few years ago to trying to defend them a little bit and the person they're talking crap about to try to help show them that well, you do this too, like glass house, stones, that whole thing. And then very recently, within the last year, it became me just as politely as I could shutting down gossip and just educating others on my personal feelings about that kind of conversation and that kind of behavior and letting them know that I don't want to be a part of it anymore. While gently trying to let them know I'm not judging them, it's just not something I care to give energy or any kind of effort to. And more these days, I don't know about you, but I find myself just wanting to be very careful with the words I speak and when I speak them and why I speak them, which has kind of led me to just trying to create sacred spaces for myself in dialogue with others. I think we live in a world where small talk is very normal and preferred. And I myself just really despise that. I hate being asked about the weather. I don't really care to partake in any kind of silly little side convos. I will quite often ask people when was the last time you thought about your mortality, just to switch it up. It's funny, but it's real. So, giving not only yourself the autonomy to create sacred space within a dialogue with others, kind of without their permission, right? Every conversation is an opportunity for you to create holy ground where authentic connection can flourish and you can set aside those little, conversation crutches I think people have, which is the weather, sports, talking crap about people, being upset about politics. And we can flip that on its head. Now, for me, intentional presence over performance of the conversation is really where I start and where I find myself putting the most effort. I try to begin my conversations with a brief internal pause to kind of center myself spiritually and just ask for wisdom and compassion rather than focusing on whatever clever thing I'm going to say next to try to shut them down or show them they're wrong. It's I just try to shift myself from ego driven to a space of soul centered and understanding that just like me, they are they are art in work, they are a masterpiece one stroke at a time. And this kind of thinking also allows you to kind of practice spiritual listening rather than listening to every word they're saying and being ready to be combative, negative, and defending. And it's just listening to not just to respond, but to truly witness another person's heart has been something I try to focus on as well. And in many faith traditions, this type of deep listening is considered a form of prayer and meditation. And when you're holding space for the divine to move through your conversation rather than you trying to fix them, show them they're wrong, show them the error of their ways, there could be a lot more movement there for progress than you might anticipate rather than trying to, beat a square peg into a round hole by showing them they're wrong. It also gives you the ability to set energetic boundaries with love. Maybe you're in a conversation where, you approach the conversation knowing that you can be fully present without absorbing their emotional burdens, their angers, their upsets, their frustrations. And this healthy boundary actually allows not only for deeper connection because you're showing up as your authentic self rather than a reactive version of you that's placing boundaries because you don't want to receive what they're giving. I find trying to elevate the conversation with others is also a way for your healed and healing inner child to show up authentically when having conversations with others. The wounded parts of ourselves often hijack our conversations, but healing work allows us to respond from wisdom rather than reacting from our old wounds in the childhood just trauma that we haven't dealt with. And recognizing that you have conversation triggers is a great place to start. Notice when you feel yourself getting defensive or shut down, or you're overly eager to please people in conversations. And these reactions often stem from childhood experiences where you learn certain communication standards and patterns to feel safe or loved or literally just left alone. Now, in conversation, when I find myself trying to elevate and raise the conversation, I give myself the ability to reparent in real time. When I'm feeling triggered during a conversation, I really do tend to take a breath and internally offer myself just the compassion I needed as a child. And this might sound like it's okay to take up space, or you are worthy of being heard, or I'm so sorry they said that to you, or they're reacting this way actively in that moment of the conversation before you continue the dialogue with the other person. You also want to take the moment of pause to try and speak from your healed self. As you're doing this inner child work, and I have a ton of guided visualizations, reparenting guides, all of the goodies, at least within the last 20 episodes, easily able to be found. You're going to start to notice a shift from needing conversations to validate you towards using them to genuinely connect and serve another person. And this creates space for much richer, more meaningful conversations. Now, when you're asking questions that touch the soul to kind of take the conversations away from the weather and the fluff and the crap, you really do get to, man, not only like honor speaking from your healed self and reparenting yourself in real time and recognizing that you have conversation triggers while setting energetic boundaries with love and practicing the art of spiritual listening, all while kind of getting intentional presence over what exactly you want the conversation to do and where you want it to go. Start asking questions that are moving beyond those surface level things that the person you're speaking with is used to engaging with, and use these questions to have a deeper current of human experience and spiritual growth intertwined. So, moving from how are you to how is your heart today? Learning to ask questions that invite vulnerability and authentic sharing give you so much more opportunity for deep, heart centered conversations that are real and that will last beyond the day that you have them. And instead of accepting fine as an answer, I often try something like, well, what's been stirring your spirit lately? Or, what's bringing you joy these days? Or if I can tell something's on their heart, I'll say, what's got you so pressed? I can feel your energy. What's going on? Do you want to share? The gift of follow-up questions is where you really get to the meat and the potatoes of this scenario of a heart-led, deep felt conversation that you are elevating by caring. And when someone shares something meaningful, resist the urge to immediately share your own unique or similar experience, and instead ask them a follow up. The beauty is in the follow up. So, some that I like are, what did that teach you about yourself? Or how did that make you feel? Or do you feel like that changed you in some way? It not only shows that you're really interested in what they're talking about, it shows that you care about their journey and you may be trying to take some gems for yourself. You also want to create space for a spiritual reflection. And what this could look like is, incorporating those questions that honor the spiritual dimensions of human experience with one another. Like, where have you seen grace show up in your life recently? Or what feels like it's trying to emerge in your life right now? Or what prayers have you recently had answered? That's a new one that I've really been enjoying asking people. There's also the ability to really take time to learn how to respond with wisdom instead of reacting from wounds. Again, we want to be speaking from a place of healing. And in trying to elevate the conversations with others, spiritual maturity in your conversation means learning to pause between the stimulus and the response. And in that moment, I allowed divine wisdom. I allowed God to come into the conversation and be like, I got this, girl. Chill. Hold on a second here because you look like you're about to jump. And that sacred pause, right? Allowing God to come in and developing the practice of taking a breath or two before responding, especially when the conversations get heated or they become emotionally charged. And this moment is going to allow you to check in with your higher self, check in with God as well, and choose words that are serving with love rather than ego, which is so major key. I also really enjoy speaking the truth as an individual, but recently I've learned to start wrapping it in love. And I've always been able to share very difficult truths, whether, my dad always said the truth hurts whether you have to hear it or say it. And I've lived by that. And In learning to share difficult truths or boundaries in ways that are both honoring our integrity as a unit in this conversation and the other person's dignity in receiving this heartfelt truth, I want to lay it down by something saying, like, I care a lot about our relationship, which is why I need to share something with you that's been on my heart. Or, if we're going to move forward as friends here, I have to be honest with you and let you know a little bit about what's been concerning me or bothering me or making me feel sad or not seen or etc. It's transformative as heck. And it's going to take that defensiveness and turn it into curiosity. And when you feel the urge to defend or justify yourself in those triggering moments and conversations, you want to try and respond with genuine curiosity instead. Maybe it's a help me understand from your perspective, or what makes you feel that way, or how did that feel for you to hear that from that person? And it can really transform potential conflict into a moment for deeper understanding between the two of you. Finally, when we are holding space for transformation in the conversation, we are also holding space for transformation in others. The highest form of conversational love is creating an environment where others feel safe to grow and change and become more of who they're meant to be. And with God's help and your patience and understanding, you can help them to get there in a conversation. I myself need to be reminded multiple times a day before I snap that I need to believe in people's highest potential. And I need to approach every conversation with the faith that I am speaking into someone's divine essence, not just their current circumstances or their limitations of who they are. This has been big for me, but also very difficult to understand and apply all the time. This also feels like an invisible shift in my perspective, and it gives me the ability to call forth the best in others, even when they are not acting in that manner. I also have started avoiding the fix it trap. It is not my job to solve anyone else's problems but my own, okay? And my dog and my cats, okay? I took them on, I stewarded their life. Resist the urge to immediately solve others' problems or give them unsolicited advice. This is huge for me. I'm saying this to me, for me, because of me. Sometimes the most healing thing that you can do for someone else is just offer your presence of silence and the affirmations. You know, that makes complete sense, or I can completely understand why you felt that way, or I really trust your ability to navigate this. You've got this. And in celebrating someone's growths and breakthroughs, you're not only getting to get that win with them, like their first step if they're a baby, but in learning to recognize and acknowledge when someone is sharing a moment of insider growth, even if it's super small, you got to take the wins, right? So I might say something like, I can hear the wisdom in what you're saying, or it sounds like something spiritually has shifted for you, or, you have like you feel a lot more confident in what you're doing. Those kinds of affirmative statements can help someone else realize that they are making incremental steps in their spiritual development, which is so important. We've all needed those reminders. We've all needed those encouragements. We've all needed those keys to our growth and unlocking the beauty of what is a lifelong journey of just getting better and better every day, 1% every day. My Richies, this was a shorter episode, but I hope it helps you. I think we all reach a place in our life, especially on a faith journey, of just wanting to help others to get to where you can so clearly see they want to be, and also doing that for yourself and serving others for me has always been in conversations. I love speaking to people, love letting them know they're seen, they're heard, they're felt. And right now I'm working on doing it with the people that are most difficult for me to do it with, right? One day at a time, one conversation at a time, breath at a time, of giving myself the grace to connect to my higher self through God and bring that down to them in our conversation to elevate us above and into meaningful, deep, heartfelt spaces that we can create together with our words and our heart and our minds. My Richies, thank you so much for tuning in to this shorter episode this week. I hope it was helpful to you. It means the world to me to have you tune in every single week. Please share this with someone you think might need to hear it. And as always, make life rich.